Hey guys, so welcome back to Latinx Now, the files, where we're taking a look at the story behind the story of the murder of Selena Quintanilla. And of course, we have once again with us, and we really thank her for coming back to us, is María Celeste, who, as we've already mentioned, is an expert on this topic. Not only, obviously, a major part of a witness in regards to the trial, but also a huge investigation was done for this, the book, the series. So thank you once again for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we had a good time last time.
We
right?
did, we
Yeah.
did. We talked about important things about this case.
Right, completely. Now, today I want to go back to the trial, right?
Okay.
I want to go back to the trial because you mentioned that based on your actions throughout the trial, that you really earned the respect from both sides, which I found that to be very fair as a journalist, right? And it goes to show your professionalism. Paint us a picture of what it was like to, as just a general picture of what it was like to sit in that trial.
Well, that trial, not even when you sat, even before you entered the building, outside we had the crowds that were standing there for hours, just waiting for the protagonist of the story to walk in and cheer or boo, depending on who it was. And they were carrying different things that had to do with Selena. Some of them had posters. Some of them had pictures of Selena. Some of them had albums.
Right.
Everything that had to do with Selena. Many of them with white roses, which were her favorite.
Of course.
And as the family of Selena would get in, they would clap. And as the family of Yolanda, the accused murderer, would get in, they would say horrible things. So it was like a Roman circus in a sense.
Of course, of course. That's got to be tough though, because in all fairness, Yolanda's family didn't have any fault in this.
I agree.
It was not you couldn't blame them. It was Yolanda, not the family.
They were suffering already because of what she did.
Right.
And they were as much of a victim as Selena's family was, because they lost a daughter by the actions of their daughter.
Correct.
And it was very very sad, because they're a very humble family, Catholic family, and they would go there, very poor as well, and they would walk in there very humbly, just very sad, very depressed, walking very slow, and they would sit down and feel like they had the weight of the world
Right.
in their shoulders. It was very dramatic.
Have there ever been a trial this big for the Latino community?
I don't think so.
Right?
Not before and not after.
This was it.
This was it. All the eyes were in it. This happened shortly after the O.J. Simpson trial, but the difference was that this trial was not televised.
Correct.
So everything had to be listened to through the program that I was doing. So I had to be very thorough in what I was looking at, so I could be a witness and express what I had seen to the public and see every detail, so that they could get the feeling of what was going on inside the courtroom.
You made mention of the televised thing. I'm asking you as a journalist, right? I don't even know if you had the answer to this or not. Do you think it would have been different had it been televised? Because I know the OJ trial was obviously hyped up so much because it had this massive audience that could see all the details. Do you think it would have been any different?
Well, we had a massive audience,
Regardless, of course.
But I imagine that if this would have been televised, every single television of a Hispanic family would have been tuned into that 24 hours.
Correct.
Yes.
That's what I think as well.
It was that compelling, and it was that much of a trial that people wanted to follow. It was like a soap opera in a sense,
Right.
a sad soap opera.
Right. When was the first time you laid eyes on Yolanda? Was it in the trial?
It was in the trial.
What did you
trial,
feel?
but it was not when the trial started in Houston. I saw her for the first time in the they call it the pre-audiencias. It's
Pre-audience. I
yeah,
guess
the
you
pre-audience.
could-
They do. It's part of the process of the trial. They meet in court, both sides, and they agree on the terms on how the actual trial is going to be conducted. So they decide things like, for example, we're going to admit this evidence, we're not going to admit this, and that is at the time where it was decided that the trial be changed to Houston from Corpus Christi. So it was there. I was sitting in the audience, and she came in, and she looked back, and she mumbled something to her lawyer, and pointed at me, and he said something back. And later I found out that she was asking him if that was me. Because remember, I had approached her for an interview via letter
that's
that I
right,
sent her
yes.
with a photograph. So I guess she recognized me from that.
Gotcha. What were your thoughts initially when you saw her?
I was intrigued. I was happy because I said, she knows who I am.
Right.
That gives me some leverage to get this interview.
Right, exactly. Now, as you said, there was people that were booing, there were some that were cheering, obviously, for Selena's family. There was I guess a frenzy is really the word that you could use for this, right? In the sense that there was people who wanted that vigilante justice,
Yes.
right? They wanted a death penalty, and if they could even take justice in their own hands, they probably would, right?
Right.
How did that affect and impact just the trial overall?
Well, the thing is that people thought, and they still think, that there was a reason why she didn't get the death penalty. And the reason is the law. The law says that you can only be punished with the death penalty if found guilty of a crime that is, to explain it in layman's words, I say like
Please,
a double
layman.
crime.
I need
Yeah,
layman's.
me too.
I
I'm
need
the same
layman's.
way. That's how it was explained to me. So if it's a double crime, for example, if she would have killed Selena while she had her kidnapped, double crime, kidnap and murder. If she would have killed Selena while she was going inside the motel room with a gun to rob her, so it was a
Really?
robbery and murder. But since none of those things happened, it was just a simple murder.
Okay.
That's why she didn't get the death penalty.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She didn't. She was not a candidate for that.
Gotcha.
Her crime.
Wow.
Wasn't.
Okay, that's
I know,
fascinating.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, I have no idea about that. You know, we mentioned the OJ trial, right? This I found. I mean, I guess we're using the word fascinating again here, right? It's the OJ trial ended October 3rd, 1995, right?
Yes.
And Yolanda Saldívar's trial ended October 23rd, 1995. We're talking 20 days later.
Yeah,
I mean,
the OJ trial ended and the Selena trial, the Yolanda trial began. So we were very busy those days because we were covering both. And the again, for the Selena trial, we moved to Houston, all our resources to be able to do it live from there. And we were doing news-breaking stories every hour on the hour concerning the trial. And then we were doing our regular shows, and we were doing special shows at night because everybody was thirsty for knowledge of what was going on there.
How did you think that impacted, though, as far as having the OJ trial, which was sensationalized and again, worldwide, to now moving on to this one as well? That was the same thing, but for our community.
It impacted a lot because people got scared that Yolanda might get away like they thought OJ had gotten away.
Correct.
So they were terrified. And when the trial began, and there were good days for the defense, good days for the prosecutors. And in those days that it was good for the defense, people would get very worried that she might walk free.
Of course. And obviously that's something that's tangible because had they seen it already, and now
of course they knew that something could go wrong and that Selena wouldn't get justice. That's how they felt.
Correct. All right, Maria Celeste, that was, I mean, I now have a clearer idea of what that trial was.
I hope I transported you
there.
You
did. You definitely did, for sure. And so, we'll be moving on to talking about the next step in all of this, for you at least, which was the writing of the book. So we'll get to that. Amigos de YouTube, ya saben, nos conocen bien, somos Latinx Now. Y bueno, si quieren seguir viendo este contenido es fácil.
Suscríbanse.
¡Lo dijo bien! ¡Lo dijo bien! Y ahora sí, suscríbanse, por favor.
Siempre dices que suscríbase.
Suscríbase.
Wait, and turn on post notifications.
También, eso es importante.
Turn on notifications. Y suscríbanse.